Hydlide for the NES is a game that receives a lot of criticism, so I'm going to try to be as fair and objective as possible. First, a little background. Hydlide was first released in Japan in 1984 for the NEC PC 6001 and NEC PC 8801 systems, which are some early Japanese home computers you've probably never heard of. I hadn't. You might be surprised to hear that this was actually a big hit in Japan when it was released. Some things must have gotten lost in translation, as the 1989 American release for the NES is almost universally considered a dud. If you look around the internet, like I did, at length, you'd be hard-pressed to find a positive review of this game. I really wanted to give Hydlide the benefit of the doubt. The game's aesthetic is what drew me in initially. For the first few minutes, Hydlide appears to be a quality RPG adventure. It unfolds into frustration and monotony pretty quick though. Hydlide is often criticized for its graphics, but actually the cute little fantasy sprites are what attracted me to the game in the first place. Some of my favorite games for the NES are titles like Zelda, Final Fantasy, Ultima, Arceus' Ring, and Crystallis. Beautiful games. So when I saw footage of Hydlide for the first time, I thought I somehow overlooked a timeless classic on my favorite console. I was wrong though, it's a clever illusion. Hydlide seemed to have all the elements of games that I love and tricked me into playing a crappy game for weeks. Unsurprisingly, the plot of Hydlide is nothing special or unique. You play as protagonist knight Jim. Jim the Knight. Jim has to be the least knightly name I've heard of in my entire life. I was actually hoping there was no explanation for this at all, but in the Japanese version, the knight's name is Jeem. J-E-E-M. So my best guess is that the guys in America translating thought Jim, close enough, call it a day. Jim is tasked with, get this, saving a princess, and therefore the kingdom. The princess was split into 3 fairies that were hidden in different trees throughout the land. And now Jim is to go blindly across the land shaking trees, and occasionally he'll come across a fairy, but most likely it's just bees. Much of the game is just running away from bees. The controls of the game are just screwy. Instead of swinging a sword or shooting magic, you just hold down A, which puts old Jimmy into attack mode, and then you walk into an enemy with no attack animation of any kind, mind you, in a game of who has a bigger The game depends heavily on grinding, and an enemy that is a slightly higher level than you will most likely waste you immediately. And this happens a lot. I mean a lot. To an arguably game-breaking extent. Which brings me to my next complaint. Hydlide incorporated this bizarre, clunky way to save your game. It uses a password save system that was common for the time, but it also includes this weird in-game save system. Opening the menu and navigating to save doesn't actually save your game to the cartridge. It just saves the position your character is in at that time. This was probably done to curb player frustration from having to enter your 80-character password every time you're killed, just to be revived and get killed again immediately and have to put in the password all over again. I usually don't judge an NES game's soundtrack because of the obvious limitations to the system, but with Hydlide, I will make an exception. Hydlide has possibly the worst music out of any game on the console, and I wouldn't make a statement like that lightly. I'll play the entirety of the game's music now. This is it. The whole thing just loops over and over again. As other videos about Hydlide pointed out to me, the little ditty played on repeat sounds just like the theme song from Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's not something that anyone would want to listen to all day. This is the only audio that plays during the entire game except for the very end battle. Visually, the game looks like what I look for in an NES game, but it's all on the surface. Hydlide feels like a caricature of an RPG. But why does this game suck so bad? I think the answer is actually pretty obvious if you think about it for a second. Hydlide's 1989 NES release was just way too late for any commercial success in North America. Zelda was released on the system just 4 years prior, and in every way imaginable, blows Hydlide out of the water. If you weren't aware Hydlide was actually developed years before The Legend of Zelda, you'd probably think it was a crude knockoff inspired by Zelda's wild success. That said, if I was sitting around in 1984 and Hydlide was presented to me, I would more than likely consider it a quality, if not top-tier video game experience. It's time for me to rank this title between number 1 and 715. It's been almost 10 weeks coming to this conclusion. I've decided there actually is a game I hate more than A Boy and His Blob, and that game is Hydlide. So until I've reviewed more NES titles, Hydlide will take its place on my list as number 2. I need to apologize. I really wanted to provide some insight on this game that other YouTubers haven't done already. But I can't. I just can't. It's a bad game. It's very hard to get into. It's even harder to listen to, and from what I can tell, impossible to see through. I wanted to like this game. I really did. I've sat down countless times over multiple weeks, but as hard as I try, I just cannot enjoy Hydlide. I wanted this review to be different from other videos on the game. I wanted to give it praise. I wanted to call it a hidden gem and give it a high space on my shelf, but I just can't. Hydlide is a bad game. Hydlide is a bad game, and everybody knows it. Thank you for indulging my haphazard NES side project. Click here to watch the newest episode of my main show, Two Guys Decide, or click here to just watch a whole season of it. Or click here to subscribe.